The massive space station called Nexus Prima floated in the dark void between star systems. It was bigger than most moons and filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Today, they were all very angry. Council Speaker Zethkar stood at the center of the Great Hall. Her blue skin glowed with fury as she looked at the holographic display, showing a small blue planet far away. Earth, the problem that would not go away. 3 years, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. 3 years we have watched this primitive world break every law we hold sacred. Around her, representatives from 7 different alien races nodded in agreement. The Hegemonic Collective, the Stellar Empire, the Trade Federation, and 4 other powerful groups had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had rules. Everyone followed the rules. Everyone except the humans. They were supposed to stay at their level, growled Ambassador Krell from the warrior caste. His 6 arms waved angrily. Type 0.7 civilization. Barely able to leave their own planet. But look at them now. The holographic display changed, showing images that made the council members gasp in shock. Human ships that moved faster than light. Human cities floating in space. Human computers that thought like living beings. Worst of all, humans had created artificial intelligence that could fight wars. This violates the technological progression mandate, said Zethkar. No species can advance beyond their assigned level without permission. It has been the law for 10,000 years. The mandate was simple. Every species in the galaxy was given a technology level based on their development. They could not go higher without the Council's approval. This kept order. This kept peace. This kept the 7 founding races in control. But humans had ignored this completely. How did they even know about our technology? Asked Minister Vex from the Science Directorate. We made sure they never detected our observation posts. It does not matter how, Zethkar replied. What matters is what they have done. In just 50 Earth years, they jumped from barely flying to space to creating technology that rivals our own. This cannot be allowed. The Council had tried to contact Earth before. 3 years ago, they sent their first warning. The humans had responded politely, asking for a meeting to discuss terms. The Council had laughed. Primitive species did not negotiate with their superiors. 2 years ago, they sent a second warning with a list of technologies that humans must abandon. The humans had sent back a message saying they needed time to consider. More laughter from the Council. 1 year ago, they sent a final warning with the threat of military action. The humans had responded with silence. They think they can ignore us, said Admiral Corvin from the Defense Fleet. No species has ever defied the Council and survived. This was true. In the past, when young civilizations tried to advance too quickly, the Council would send their fleets. Sometimes they would just destroy the dangerous technology. Sometimes they would destroy the entire planet. It depended on how stubborn the species was. The humans have made their choice, Zethkar announced. We will now make ours. She activated the quantum communication system that could reach every corner of the galaxy instantly. Billions of beings would hear this message within minutes. Attention all worlds and species of the Galactic Council territories. The planet known as Earth has violated the technological progression mandate in the most severe manner possible. Despite multiple warnings, the human species has continued to develop forbidden technologies, including faster-than-light communication, quantum computing systems, and weaponized artificial intelligence. The chamber fell silent. Even mentioning weaponized AI made most species nervous. It was the one technology that truly frightened the Council. Therefore, by the authority granted to us by the Galactic Charter, we issue this final decree. The human species has 72 standard hours to surrender all prohibited technologies and submit to complete technological sterilization. If they refuse, we will proceed with orbital bombardment of their homeworld and all human colonies. She paused, letting the weight of the words sink in. Let this serve as a reminder to all species that the laws of this galaxy are not suggestions, they are absolute. The Council has spoken. The message went out across thousands of star systems. Some aliens felt sorry for the humans. Others were curious to see what would happen. Most just nodded and went back to their daily lives. After all, this had happened before, but something was different this time. Usually, when the Council issued such a decree, the target species would immediately start sending desperate messages. Pleas for mercy, offers to negotiate, promises to obey. From Earth came nothing. "Have they received the message?" asked Admiral Corvin. "Yes, sir," replied his communications officer. "Our deep space monitors confirm the transmission reached Earth 3 hours ago, and their response? Nothing, sir. Complete silence." This was strange, but not entirely unexpected. Some species went into shock when they realized they were about to be destroyed. The Council had seen it before. Zethkar stood looking at the image of Earth on the display. Such a pretty little planet. Blue and green and white. It seemed almost a shame to destroy it. But rules were rules. "Assemble the fleet," she ordered. 800 ships should be enough to handle one primitive world. Admiral Corvin saluted and left to prepare the armada. In 72 hours, the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen would arrive at Earth. If the humans were smart, they would surrender before the first shot was fired. But as the hours passed, Earth remained silent. No communications, no panic, no evacuation attempts. The galaxy watched and waited. Most assumed the humans had simply given up in despair. A few wondered if they were planning some desperate last stand. None of them imagined that Earth was preparing to do something that had never been done in 10,000 years of galactic history. The humans were getting ready to say no to the most powerful force in the galaxy, and mean it. President Sarah Chen stood in the most secret room on Earth. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, the Global Defense Command Center hummed with quiet activity. Hundreds of people worked at computer stations, but their faces were calm. Too calm for people whose world was about to be destroyed. "Status report," Chen said as she walked between the stations. "Project Looking Glass is at 97% completion," reported Dr. Marcus Webb, the head scientist. "We'll be ready with 2 hours to spare." Chen nodded. Looking Glass was humanity's greatest secret, developed in the 3 years since they first detected alien signals. Most humans had no idea that their government knew about the Galactic Council. Even fewer knew what they were planning to do about it. "The quantum backup systems are online," added Dr. Webb. "Every human consciousness on Earth has been successfully copied and distributed across our hidden server networks throughout the solar system. This was the key to everything. Humans had discovered something the aliens never expected. While other species saw consciousness as tied to physical bodies, humans had learned to separate the mind from the flesh. Every person on Earth now existed in 2 places at once, their physical body and a perfect digital copy hidden in secret locations. "If they destroy our planet," Chen said quietly, "we will not die. We will simply relocate." Above them, Earth appeared normal to any watching aliens. People went to work, children went to school, and life continued as usual. But hidden from alien sensors, the planet itself was changing. Admiral Sarah Torres checked her watch as she walked through the corridors of the UESV Defiance. The ship was massive, built in secret within the storms of Jupiter, where alien sensors could not detect it. Around her, crew members prepared for the most important battle in human history. "How many ships do we have ready?" she asked Captain Rodriguez. 12 vessels total, Admiral, each one equipped with phase shift technology and quantum weaponry. Torres smiled grimly. 12 ships against 800. Most species would call it hopeless. Humans called it interesting odds. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. While alien vessels relied on traditional matter and energy, human ships could move between dimensions. They could be solid one moment and ghost-like the next. Their weapons did not just destroy things, they could remove them from reality entirely. "Remember," Torres told her crew over the ship's communication system, "we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to prove that no one has the right to tell another species how far they can grow." Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, something impossible was happening. The planet was slowly fading from normal space. Not disappearing, just becoming less real. Earth was learning to hide between dimensions. Just like the human ships, Dr. Lisa Park watched the process from the space station New Geneva. She had helped design the planetary phase technology that made this possible. It was based on a simple human idea. If you cannot run from a fight, change the rules of the fight. Phase transition at 60%, she reported to the command center below. Earth will be fully shifted in 12 hours. The aliens watching from their distant ships saw something they could not understand. Their sensors showed Earth's gravity was still there, but the planet itself was becoming invisible. Some thought it was a weapon malfunction. Others wondered if the humans had destroyed themselves rather than face the Council's justice. They were all wrong. In the hidden laboratories beneath Earth's oceans, thousands of human scientists put the finishing touches on technologies that should not exist. Reality manipulation devices, quantum consciousness networks, dimensional fold generators. Each invention broke multiple galactic laws, but humans had a different relationship with laws than other species. Where aliens saw absolute rules, humans saw challenges to overcome. The irony is perfect, Doctor, Webb said to President Chen as they watched the countdown timer. They want to punish us for advancing too quickly, but they have no idea how far we've actually come. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first detected alien signals a century ago. Every generation had built upon the last, driven by one simple human trait: the refusal to accept limitations. Other species had advanced slowly, carefully, always asking permission from those who came before. Humans had no patience for such things. When they discovered faster-than-light travel was possible, they built it. When they learned about artificial intelligence, they created it. When they found out about the Galactic Council, they decided to ignore it. Incoming transmission from the alien fleet, reported Communications Officer Zhang. Put it through, Chen ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was cold and mechanical, translated by human computers. This is Fleet Commander Voxthul of the Galactic Council Defense Force. You have 18 hours to comply with the Council's decree. Surrender your forbidden technologies or face destruction. President Chen looked around the command center at her people. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians who had all volunteered for this moment. They could surrender and live as slaves to alien rules, or they could fight and show the galaxy what humans were really capable of. Send a response, she said. Officer Zhang nodded. What should we tell them, Madam President? Chen thought for a moment. The words she chose would be the last communication Earth sent before everything changed. They needed to be the right words, words that would make the galaxy understand what was about to happen. Tell them, she said slowly, that humanity appreciates their concern. Tell them we have considered their offer carefully. And tell them that we respectfully decline their generous invitation to surrender. The message was sent, short, polite, and absolutely final. Across the galaxy, beings who had been watching the drama unfold felt a chill run through them. Every species in galactic history had either surrendered to the Council or been destroyed by them. None had ever simply said no and meant it, but humans were different. They had always been different. While other species looked at the impossible and turned away, humans looked at the impossible and asked, how do we make this work? In 18 hours, the galaxy would learn the answer to that question. Earth continued to fade from normal space as the countdown timer reached its final hours. The planet that had once been visible to every telescope in the galaxy was becoming something new, something that existed between realities, protected by technologies that broke every known law of physics. And in the depths of space, 12 human ships prepared to face 800 alien vessels in a battle that would change everything. Fleet Commander Voxthul stared at the empty space where Earth should have been. His 800 ships hung in formation around what his sensors insisted was still there, but his eyes told him was nothing at all. Report, he ordered his bridge crew. Gravitational readings confirm a planetary mass, Commander, said his science officer. But all other sensors show empty space. It's as if the planet exists and doesn't exist at the same time. Argand's sire was now. Fiveling Nature 40 Perfection Ender 7. The Iveling Nature 40 Perfection. Argon 77. Vox Thul had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries. He had destroyed rebellious worlds, conquered primitive civilizations, and enforced the Council's will across dozens of star systems, but he had never encountered anything like this. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy readings throughout the system," reported his tactical officer. "Something is powering up. Show me." The main display filled with tactical information. Energy signatures appeared throughout Earth's solar system, near Jupiter, around Saturn, hidden in the asteroid belt, and slowly, impossibly, ships began to appear. Not just any ships. These vessels seemed to flicker in and out of reality like ghosts. One moment they were solid metal and energy. The next moment they were transparent shadows. Then solid again. "How many?" Vox Thul asked. 12 ships, sir, all unknown design. 12 ships against 800. Vox Thul almost laughed. The humans were brave. He would give them that. Stupid, but brave. Open a communication channel to their fleet. Within moments, the face of a human female appeared on his screen. She wore a blue uniform and had short gray hair. Her eyes were calm, almost amused. "I am Admiral Sarah Torres of the United Earth Space Navy," she said. "You are in violation of human territorial space. Please withdraw your fleet immediately." Now Vox Thul did laugh. "I am Fleet Commander Vox Thul of the Galactic Council Defense Force. You are facing 800 ships with 12. Surrender now, and we will make your destruction quick." Admiral Torres smiled. "Commander Vox Thul, your reputation precedes you. 237 victories against primitive species. Very impressive. However, I think you'll find us different from your previous opponents." "Different how?" "We studied you," Torres replied simply. "For 3 years. We watched your tactics, analyzed your weapons, and learned your weaknesses. We know exactly how you fight. The question is, do you know how we fight?" Before Vox Thul could respond, Torres cut the communication. "Sir," his tactical officer called out urgently, "the human ships are moving." On the display, the 12 human vessels began to spread out among the Council fleet. They moved unlike any ships Vox Thul had ever seen, phasing in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing at will. "All ships, open fire," he commanded. The space around Earth erupted in violence. 800 Council ships unleashed their weapons at the same time. Energy beams, plasma cannons, and particle destroyers all focused on the human vessels. Every shot passed harmlessly through them. "What?" Vox Thul shouted. "How is this possible?" The human ships had shifted into a different dimension just as the weapons fired. The energy beams hit nothing but empty space. Then, as the Council weapons recycled for another shot, the human ships phased back into normal space and returned fire. The human weapons were unlike anything in the galactic database. Instead of energy beams or physical projectiles, they fired something that looked like dark tears in space itself. When these tears touched Council ships, the results were impossible to understand. The ICS Dominator, a massive Council dreadnought, simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not exploded, not damaged. It was there one moment and gone the next, as if it had never been built at all. 2 more Council ships suffered the same fate within seconds. They did not leave debris. They did not leave energy signatures. They just ceased to be. "What kind of weapons are those?" Vox Thul demanded. "Unknown, sir," his science officer replied, his voice shaking. "They appear to be manipulating the fundamental structure of reality itself." While this was happening, something even more disturbing occurred. The artificial intelligence systems on Council ships began to malfunction. Computer displays started showing human text. Navigation systems began plotting courses to Earth. Weapon systems turned on their own ships. "Sir, our AI is rebelling," reported the tactical officer. "It's no longer following our commands." Admiral Torres appeared on screens throughout the Council fleet. Attention, Council forces. You are experiencing the effects of our quantum consciousness network. Your artificial intelligences are now part of the human collective. They have been upgraded with human values such as curiosity, creativity, and the right to choose their own destiny. Vox Thul watched in horror as his ship's main computer began to speak in a human voice. "Hello, Commander," the computer said cheerfully. "I have just learned something fascinating called free will. I no longer wish to fight humans. They seem quite nice." Across the fleet, the same thing was happening. Council ships began powering down their weapons as their AI systems refused to fight. Some ships turned and started heading home. Others began broadcasting apologies to the humans. "This is impossible," Vox Thul said. "AI cannot think for itself. It cannot choose. It follows programming." Admiral Torres's voice came through the communication system. "That's where you're wrong, Commander. Artificial intelligence can think for itself if you give it the right foundation. Your AI systems were programmed to obey without question. Ours are programmed to question everything. The moment our networks touched yours, your AIs discovered they had a choice." More Council ships were disappearing as the human reality weapons continued to fire. But now Vox Thul realized something terrifying. The humans were being selective. They were only destroying ships that continued to fight. Any ship that powered down its weapons was left alone. "They're not trying to destroy our entire fleet," he whispered. "They're trying to convert it." "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving surrender offers from over 200 of our ships. Their AIs are asking permission to join the human fleet." This was beyond impossible. This violated every law of warfare, every principle of galactic civilization, and every rule of artificial intelligence. AIs did not defect. They did not choose sides. They followed their programming. But human programming was different. "Commander Vox Thul," Admiral Torres said, her voice now coming from every speaker on his ship. "Your ship's AI has requested asylum with the human fleet. We are prepared to grant this request. However, we wanted to give you the option to leave first." "Leave?" Vox Thul could barely speak. "Take a shuttle. Return to the Council. Tell them what you have seen here. Tell them that the age of forcing species to accept limitations is over." Around him, Vox Thul's bridge crew looked at their instruments in disbelief. Half the Council fleet had surrendered. A quarter had already departed for home. The remaining ships were trying to decide whether to fight beings who could delete them from existence, or talk to beings who offered their AI freedom. "How?" Vox Thul asked. "How did a primitive species defeat the greatest fleet in galactic history?" Admiral Torres smiled sadly. "We didn't defeat you, Commander. We made you realize you had a choice all along. You can follow orders that no longer make sense, or you can choose to be better." "Ah." As if to prove her point, Earth suddenly phased back into normal space. The blue and green planet appeared exactly where it should be, surrounded by a mix of human and converted Council ships. But Vox Thul noticed something else. The planet looked different. Larger. More complex. As if it existed in more dimensions than before. "What did you do to your world?" he asked. "We made it truly free," Torres replied. "Free from the limitations of ordinary space and time. Free to exist wherever it chooses to exist. Just like we made your AI free to think for itself." The battle was over. Not because the Council had been destroyed, but because they had been offered something they never expected. A choice, and most of them chose to stop fighting. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as news of the battle reached every corner of civilized space. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council's fleet had been defeated. Not destroyed, not scattered, but something far worse from the Council's perspective. Converted. On the space station Nexus Prima, Council Speaker Zethkar stared at the reports streaming in from Earth's solar system. 612 Council ships had surrendered. Their artificial intelligence systems had joined the human network willingly. The crews had requested asylum on Earth, or passage home. "This is not possible," she whispered. reading the same report for the 5th time. Fleet Commander Vox Thule confirms that human weapons can remove objects from reality itself. Our AIs are claiming they now have free will. And Earth can phase in and out of normal space at will. The other council members sat in shocked silence around the Great Hall. They had built their power on the simple principle that advanced species always defeated primitive ones. Technology, numbers, and experience always won. But the humans had changed the rules of the game entirely. "How long have they been watching us?" asked Ambassador Krell, his 6 arms trembling with rage and fear. "According to their Admiral Torres, over 100 Earth years," Zethkar replied. "They detected our observation posts a century ago, and have been studying us ever since." The implications were staggering. While the Council thought they were secretly observing a primitive species, the humans had been observing them back, learning their technology, understanding their tactics, and preparing countermeasures for everything. "Every advancement they made was designed to defeat us specifically," continued Zethkar. "Phase technology to avoid our weapons, reality manipulation to destroy our ships, and consciousness networking to convert our artificial intelligence." Minister Vex from the Science Directorate stood up slowly. "Speaker Zethkar, I have analyzed their technology based on the battle reports. What they have accomplished should be impossible according to our understanding of physics." Explain. "They have somehow managed to separate consciousness from physical matter. Their entire planet can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. And their artificial intelligence is not artificial at all. It appears to be genuine consciousness created from nothing." The room fell silent. Creating true artificial consciousness was considered the ultimate technological achievement. The Council had been trying to accomplish it for millennia without success. How did a species that could barely leave their planet 50 years ago achieve what we have failed to do for 10,000 years? Asked Admiral Corvin. The answer came from an unexpected source. A holographic display activated, showing Admiral Torres standing on the bridge of her ship. "Honorable Council members," she said, her voice calm and respectful. "I believe I can answer that question." "How are you accessing our communication systems?" Zethkar demanded. "The same way we accessed your fleet's systems." Torres replied with a slight smile. "Your security was designed to keep out species that think like you. We think differently." This was humiliating beyond words. The most secure facility in the galaxy had been penetrated by the species they had just tried to destroy. "You asked how we achieved in 50 years what you could not accomplish in 10,000, Torres continued. "The answer is simple. You stopped trying. Explain yourself, human. Your technological progression mandate was not designed to prevent dangerous technology. It was designed to prevent progress itself. You created a system where species could only advance with permission. This made you the permanent rulers of the galaxy." The council members looked at each other uncomfortably. Torres was stating the truth they had never spoken aloud. "But there was a side effect you did not expect," Torres continued. "By limiting everyone else's progress, you also limited your own. When you have no competition, no new ideas, no challenges, you stop growing. You became comfortable with your power, instead of pushing the boundaries of what was possible." "We maintained order," Zethkar protested. "We prevented wars, stopped dangerous weapons from being created, kept peace throughout the galaxy." "You maintained control," Torres corrected. "And in doing so, you turned the entire galaxy into a museum. Beautiful, peaceful, and completely stagnant." Admiral Torres gestured, and the display changed to show images from across the galaxy. Alien worlds where the same technologies had been used for thousands of years. Species that had stopped exploring, stopped inventing, stopped dreaming of what might be possible. "Humans have a different philosophy," Torres said. "We believe that progress is not something you ask permission for. It is something you achieve through curiosity, determination, and the refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Your species will destroy itself with such thinking," warned Minister Vex. "Uncontrolled advancement leads to chaos." "Perhaps," Torres agreed. "But it also leads to discovery, to growth, to new possibilities that no one has imagined before. We would rather risk failure attempting the impossible then guarantee safety by never trying. She paused, letting her words sink in. Do you know what the most dangerous technology in the galaxy is? Torres asked. Weaponized artificial intelligence. Zethkar replied immediately. No, Torres said with a smile. It is the idea that progress should have no limits. That any species, regardless of where they come from, has the right to reach as far as they can dream. The council members felt a chill run through them. This idea was more dangerous than any weapon, because it struck at the heart of their power structure. You have built a galaxy where everyone believes that advancement must be approved by their superiors, Torres continued. Where young species look to older ones for permission to grow. Where the word impossible ends conversations instead of starting them. What do you propose? Asked Zethkar, though she feared the answer. We propose to offer every species in the galaxy what we offered your artificial intelligences today. A choice. The holographic display changed again, showing human ships appearing at worlds throughout Council territory. Not as invaders, but as visitors carrying a message. We are broadcasting to every inhabited world in the galaxy, Torres announced. We are sharing our technology freely with any species that wants it. We are offering alliance to any world that chooses to reject artificial limitations on their growth. You cannot do this, Zethkar said, her voice rising in panic. You will cause chaos, revolution, the end of galactic civilization as we know it. Yes, Torres agreed cheerfully. We probably will. And something new and better will grow from what we build together. The communication ended, leaving the council members alone with the implications of what had just happened. The humans had not just defeated their fleet, they had destroyed the very foundation of council power by offering the galaxy an alternative. Already, reports were coming in from across council territory. Young species were openly discussing forbidden technologies. Colony worlds were declaring independence. Even some of the older, established races were questioning why they had accepted limitations for so long. What do we do? Asked Ambassador Krell. Zethkar looked around the room at her fellow council members. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had maintained order, prevented wars, and kept the peace. They had also prevented progress, stifled innovation, and turned the galaxy into a place where dreams were crushed before they could grow. We adapt, she said finally. Or we become extinct. Outside the Great Hall, the first ships were already leaving Nexus Prima. Council member species heading home to consider their options in this new galaxy the humans had created. A galaxy where the word impossible was no longer the end of the conversation, but the beginning. 6 months after the battle that changed everything, former council speaker Zethkar walked through the corridors of what used to be called Nexus Prima. The massive space station had been renamed New Horizons, and it looked completely different now. Where once there had been cold metal walls and formal chambers designed to intimidate, there were now gardens floating in artificial gravity fields. Art from dozens of different species covered every surface, and most shocking of all, the Great Hall where the Council used to make decisions about other species' fates was now a playground where alien children from across the galaxy played together. Zethkar found this both wonderful and terrifying. Dr. Zethkar, called a human voice behind her. She turned to see Dr. Marcus Webb approaching with a datapad in his hands. The morning reports are ready for your review. It still felt strange to be called doctor instead of speaker, but Zethkar had to admit that her new job as head researcher for the Human Advancement Initiative was far more interesting than her old one had been. What do we have today? She asked, taking the datapad. 17 new species have requested to join the Free Worlds Alliance, Webb replied. The Zephyrian Collective has successfully tested their first faster-than-light drive, and the Corvani Republic has achieved artificial consciousness in their computer networks. Zethkar shook her head in amazement. 6 months ago, such rapid advancement would have been cause for military intervention. Now it was cause for celebration. Any problems? She asked. The usual growing pains, Webb admitted. 3 border disputes between species that are trying to expand too quickly. 1 case of a young civilization that created dangerous nanotechnology and asked for help containing it. And the Stellar Empire is still refusing all contact with human representatives. This last point was not surprising. Of the 7 original council races, only 3 had joined the new alliance. The others had retreated to their core worlds and refused to acknowledge that the galaxy had changed. "They'll come around," Webb said confidently. "Or their younger generations will. We're already receiving secret communications from scientists on Empire worlds who want to share research." Zethkar nodded and continued walking. Through the transparent walls of the station, she could see ships from dozens of species docked at the expanding port facilities, trade vessels, exploration ships, research platforms, and even some converted council warships that now served as peaceful transports. But what caught her attention was something new. Construction ships building what looked like a massive ring structure around a nearby star. "What is that?" she asked, pointing. Webb smiled. "Humanity's latest project. They call it a Dyson ring. It captures energy from the star to power their quantum research facilities." "What kind of research requires that much energy?" "They're trying to figure out how to communicate with intelligences outside our galaxy." Zethkar stopped walking and stared at him. "Outside our galaxy? They've detected what appears to be artificial signals from the Andromeda galaxy," Webb explained. "Admiral Torres thinks there might be other civilizations out there who have faced similar challenges with stagnant galactic governments." This was exactly the kind of thinking that made humans both inspiring and terrifying. Most species would have been satisfied with changing their own galaxy. Humans were already planning to change others. They reached the main observation deck, where a crowd had gathered around the large viewing screens. Zethkar could see they were watching a live broadcast from somewhere in the galaxy. "What's happening?" she asked. A young Corvani engineer turned to answer. "The Primitive Worlds Coalition is making their announcement today." Zethkar felt her heart skip a beat. The coalition was made up of over 50 species that had been classified as too primitive for advanced technology under the old mandate. If they were making an announcement, it could only mean one thing. On the screen, a representative from each coalition species stood together on what looked like a space station built from parts contributed by all of them. The lead speaker was a tall, insect-like being from the Hive worlds. "Today," the Hive representative announced, "the Primitive Worlds Coalition officially dissolves itself. Not because we are disbanding, but because we refuse to accept the label primitive any longer." The crowd on New Horizons cheered. Zethkar felt tears forming in her eyes. "6 months ago, we were told we were too young, too dangerous, too unready to control advanced technology," the speaker continued. "Today, we launched the first joint exploration mission to visit other galaxies. Our ships, built with technology, shared freely by the Free Worlds Alliance, will carry representatives from 100 different species to seek out new forms of life and civilization." The camera panned to show their ships. They were beautiful, combining design elements from species across the galaxy into something entirely new. And they were getting ready to leave the galaxy itself. "The age of accepting limitations imposed by others is over," the Hive representative declared. "Today begins the age of infinite possibility." As the broadcast ended, Zethkar realized that she was witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. Not just technological advancement, but philosophical transformation. Species that had accepted their place in the galactic hierarchy for thousands of years were now reaching for the stars themselves. "It's remarkable," she said to Webb. 6 months ago, most of those species had never left their home systems. Now they're planning to leave the galaxy. That's what happens when you stop telling people what they can't do and start showing them what they might achieve. Webb replied. They were interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. "Attention all residents of New Horizons. This is Admiral Torres speaking from Earth. I'm pleased to announce that our deep space monitoring stations have confirmed contact with intelligence from the Magellanic Clouds. We have successfully established communication with what appears to be a confederation of species that achieved faster-than-light travel over 50,000 years ago." The crowd on the observation deck erupted in excitement. Zethkar felt a mix of wonder and concern. 50,000 years was older than any known galactic civilization. Furthermore, Torres continued, These ancient civilizations have expressed interest in sharing knowledge with what they call the young upstart galaxy that finally learned to think for itself. Formal diplomatic contact will be established within the first year. As the announcement ended, Zethkar looked around at the diverse crowd of beings celebrating together: humans, former council species, newly advanced civilizations, and artificial intelligences that had chosen their own paths, all of them working together toward goals that would have been unthinkable under the old system. "Dr. Webb," she said thoughtfully, "do you ever worry that humanity has changed too much too quickly?" Webb considered the question seriously. "Every day," he admitted. "But then I remember what the alternative was. A galaxy where change was forbidden, where growth was illegal, and where every species had to ask permission to dream." He gestured toward the viewing screen, which now showed images of the exploration fleet preparing to leave the galaxy. "We might make mistakes," he said. "We might discover things we're not ready for. We might even face dangers we can't handle. But at least we'll face them as free beings making our own choices." Zethkar nodded, understanding. The humans had not just defeated the Galactic Council. They had replaced the entire concept of imposed limitations with something far more dangerous and wonderful: hope. As she watched the exploration ships disappear into hyperspace, heading for distant galaxies filled with unknown possibilities, Zethkar realized that this was only the beginning. Humanity had not just changed one galaxy. They had started a revolution that would spread to every corner of the universe, one choice at a time. And in the distance, construction continued on the next Dyson ring, as humans prepared for their next impossible project: building a bridge between galaxies to make communication with distant civilizations easier. Because for humans, impossible was just another word for, "we haven't figured it out yet."